Thanks to the captain for holding us down there while we got ready to go.
That's pretty awesome.
So what's up, man? How you doing?
I can't get enough of that picture. Now the guys in the background, that was supposed to be rookies, right? I mean, it's like the rookie hazing, everybody dresses up.
Yeah.
But Belt seems to have gotten the short end of the stick because he had to wear the Lieutenant Dangle shorts from Reno 911. So I don't know if that's such a win-win for him, but whatever. I mean, I'll have to say this. He looks good in shorts. Put it that way.
So we are live streaming this. We are live streaming on our Facebook page, which is Thompson and Clark, and on our Twitter account. So usually we've kind of gone through YouTube, and the problem is our YouTube subscriptions aren't that high. So what I wanted to test today, and this is why we're doing it, is to go through Twitter and Facebook to see if it changes. It may not change anything, and YouTube may just be the right place to live stream. But the problem is when you don't have a lot of subscribers, you cannot create those notifications to make the awareness out there. Because I have another channel with a couple thousand subscribers, and those people will get notified. So anyways, that's what we're trying this today. For those listening on the audio, this makes literally no difference for you whatsoever.
Right.
But yeah, we just kind of, because it was we're leading up to the last week of the season. We wanted to go live and see if folks were interested in checking us out here on Twitter and on Facebook. So I guess the first thing is, as we head to the last two series of the year for both Giants and the Dodgers, Giants have a 2-game lead thanks to sweeping the Rockies again in Colorado, which was amazing. I saw Buster Posey. He was quoted as telling Cap, like, do you realize how hard it is to beat these guys like 6 games in a row at their place? Like, it's really hard.
Oh yeah.
Even back to, Lincecum days, right? You'd see him muttering under his breath, because of the humidor or whatever, like, juice ball BS or whatever, when he's on the mound. And it's always been a place that's been really hard for us to win at. So that's why I was like, when you looked at the schedule, you're like, okay, we should beat Colorado. But we kept saying this every time that the last 2 series, like, okay, but Colorado is a much different team at home. They're like a playoff team if they could play all their games at home. But the Giants still won 6 in a row. They closed them out yesterday. I thought it was going to be more of a nail biter than it was. Gausman had things going. The defense kind of let them down a little bit and let Colorado tie the game, but the Giants really pushed it out of reach in the 9th inning. So any quick thoughts on this last week of the season? Giants, I think we sort of expected them to play really well at the end, because that's what good teams do. But they beat, if we look at, I guess it would have been Sunday, the Braves game was a bad one, but they take the next 5 out of 6 from San Diego and Colorado.
Yeah. And let's not downplay it too much too. I mean, Colorado, that wasn't like they just went in there and walked all over them. It was a 7-2 score in the first game, 7-2 score in the second game, and 6-2 score in the third game. But still, those were late runs. The Giants kind of made a habit this weekend of going into Colorado, kind of hanging around, kind of making it like a 2-1 game, a 3-2 game, a 4-3 game, a tie game, 2-2, and then just bursting out runs in the last 3 innings of the game. But I mean, we kind of knew, and that's how it works in Colorado too. You can have a low scoring game, but it will not stay that way. The runs will come in bunches, and that's kind of what happened. The Giants were just, especially on Friday night, it was a pretty close game, and they just started blasting home runs. All of a sudden, before you know it, it's 7-2, but credit to the Giants bullpen for being able to really, really hang in there in Colorado and only give up 2 runs a game for 3 games in a row. I mean, that's really hard to do because Giants pitchers didn't get out of the 4th inning all the way up until yesterday when Gausman finally did. But, again, it was another nerve-wracking series in Colorado until around the 7th or 8th inning each night. But yeah, I mean, the Giants played, the type of baseball they've been playing all year long. The defense was solid, but then they make some gaffes and you're like, oh man, here, come on, don't let them in. But
Yeah.
you always knew in your back pocket the Giants have home runs, and
Yep.
it's something we've never been able to
sure.
say for years and years and years, that, well, the Giants have the 3-run home run, the Earl Weaver home run, waiting in their back pocket. It's going to happen. And sure enough, it does happen. I mean, Brandon Crawford, a 3-run home run yesterday. It's just, it's one of those things you're getting used to. Can you count on that? I mean, the Giants are coming home, and I think the weather is going to be cooler the next couple days. We've got a lot of wind here in Reno. I don't know if you can see back here, but
we can see it.
Yeah, it's going to be 63 degrees here in Reno tomorrow. And right now, I think today it's like 80, 82. So we get these massive drops because we're up in the mountains. So tomorrow night, 6:45 start, you're going to have cooler temps. Ball doesn't fly as much. So, but they play Arizona. I mean, Giants are 14-2 against Arizona this year. And I mean, you can't take anything for granted. If anything, 1993 has taught us that. I don't mean to bring it up. Sorry, Giants fan. I don't mean to bring it up, but it's in the back of my mind. It's always been there. So yeah.
All right, let's hit our little intro video here, and then we'll come back with the rest of the show.
Bedrosian throws to Sandberg, and the pitch is grounded to second base. Thompson has it, throws to first. It's over. 27 years of waiting have come to an end. The Giants have won the pennant.
The Giants and the Dodgers for the week. If we start the week on Monday, which you and I do because we usually record our podcast on Monday, both teams lost one game last week, which meant that the Giants still lead by 2. So we need to thank very much so the Arizona Diamondbacks, who aren't they the worst team in baseball?
They are. I believe they have 106 losses right now. Yeah, they have 106 losses. So if you ever want to go by the old adage of "don't get too cocky, kid," right? Famous words of Han Solo: "You don't get too cocky, kid," because the Diamondbacks are coming in. Giants have a 2-game lead on the Dodgers. Giants have to play the Diamondbacks for 3. Earlier this year, they had to come back from down 7-1 at home against the Diamondbacks to win that game, where Yaz hit the grand slam. I think it was in the bottom of the 8th inning to finally take the lead. They were down 7-1. So I mean, they're not a walkover team. The 3 guys they're facing this week all have ERAs of like 4.5. So it's not like they're facing guys with ERAs in the 6s. So it's still going to be a battle. It's still baseball. The Diamondbacks are still playing for pride. I mean, they still want to win games. They have a young team. That's the thing. And then we're going to see Mad Bum on Thursday night. So that's always pretty exciting. And if you don't think he's going to be dialed up a notch and ready to shut this team down, you're sorely mistaken. He's going to have the juices flowing and ready to show what he's made of. So.
Ultimate competitor, right?
Oh yeah, big time.
100%.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, this is his time of year. Unfortunately, with the Diamondbacks, it's not going to be October, probably for a few years at least. But this is his time of year. This is when he shines. He shines in big games, and this is going to be a very big game for him. So the Giants, need to really take care of business Tuesday night and Wednesday night. That way, when they get to Thursday, hopefully they maintain that 2-game lead or have busted that 2-game lead to a 3-game lead. Because who do the Dodgers have this week? They have the Padres, right?
They have the Padres for 3 starting on Tuesday. And these are home games against the Padres. So Tuesday through Thursday. And then they end the season with the Brewers at home Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the Brewers have clinched.
They wrapped it up yesterday. Yeah,
they really have nothing to play for. So that may be a little bit easier than we would have hoped.
Yeah,
But
because
we were
they
sort of
don't
warning
even
against that.
they don't even have. I'm gonna look at the standings again. I had them up earlier. I was studying them because there's a lot of fun stuff happening. If you're just a baseball fan, we're Giants fans first, but we're also baseball fans. We love the game. We love this time of year. Um, and looking at the standings, you got Atlanta and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is 2.5 games behind Atlanta in the NL East for that title, and they play 3 games against each other starting tomorrow. So that's going to be fun one to watch on the scoreboard as well. But Milwaukee, I mean, they're really not jockeying for position. They have like an 11 game lead, 10.5 game lead on Atlanta with their record. And they're way up on St. Louis, 7 games. So really they can't lose any position. They're going to be home for their first series, and it's either going to be against Atlanta or Philadelphia. So yeah, I mean, really they can start resting guys. But again, we talked about it last week in baseball. That's so weird to rest guys because you've got 6 games left, and then you're going to have 5 days off before you play again. So if you start resting guys now regularly, they could be off for 10 or 11 days, and then you start messing with timing and hitting. You start messing with rotation because again, pitching, because again, with pitching, it's repetition, arm slot, leg landing, everything else is repetition. If you start messing with that and giving yourself too much time off, the body gets weird. So it's going to be interesting to see what Milwaukee does. They can run out, just kind of a garbage lineup. I think, when do they play? They're probably all hungover today. They play tomorrow at St. Louis. St. Louis has won 16 in a row now. They've all but locked up that second wild card spot. So again, that's not a very interesting series. So they can really, kind of throw out like a half-hearted lineup, have half of your starters one night, the other half the next night, give guys, days off here and there who are banged up. But I think pitching wise, you probably want to stick with your rotation, maybe one extra day off in between, plug in another guy. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
We should be thankful that the rosters didn't really expand very far this year, because they could have really thrown out the AAA roster for 3 games in a row.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got, yeah, we need them to do something against the Dodgers, but hopefully by the time we get there, if the Giants can maintain that 2-game lead, get through these 3 games and gain 1 game and make it 3 with 3 left, you're sitting pretty. You don't have to worry about too much, because then you have 3 games against the Padres. You just have to win 1 and it's over at that point. But yeah, it's going to be these next 3 games against the Diamondbacks. It's going to be interesting. If the Diamondbacks score in the first inning, don't go to Twitter. Don't even bother looking at Twitter, because it's going to feel like the end of the world. But it's still going to be fun. It's going to be a fun week. I always look forward to this time of year when the Giants are in it, and especially battling that out like this. How many years have we had heartache this time of year? But I feel like we're kind of set up for some good things to happen between now and Sunday.
This is going to be a very positive podcast.
Yes.
Let's get that out of the way. But I do have one. I want to mention one thing, because the only reason the Giants didn't sweep the Padres is because they could not score in the 10th inning with 2 runners on and no outs.
Yes.
And that game, at the time, it felt like one of those, like, oh my gosh, when we look at the end of this season, we're going to point to this game as the reason why they didn't do X, Y, and Z. Now,
there's so many other games you can look at.
Well, because they swept Colorado, then you go, okay, well, maybe this game isn't going to affect us as much as we thought. But just to have that moment where you got Belt, you got Duggar, and they cannot get one across, and then, the bottom of the 10th, Padres easily get one across and they win the game. But that was really the only blemish. That was a tough game. It was, I think it was, look at the box score here. It was, it was the Logan Webb game where he had an awful first inning, which we haven't seen a lot of this year, especially in the last like 15 to 20 starts. He starts off really poorly, and then he's okay after that. He'll throw our next game on Tuesday, and I think I read that if we go to 162, he'll start that game. If we have not clinched the division, he will start game 162. So there's a lot of pressure for him, and I think there was a little bit of an issue with the strike zone with him in that game, and then Quintana came in and he didn't look good either. I kind of wonder if he's even gonna be on the roster. It doesn't look likely that he's going to be a guy that they're going to turn to in big games, especially with Duvall and Castro throwing the way that they did recently. So the one blemish, unfortunately, they could not sweep. It would have been great if they could have just swept both of those series, and then they'd be up even more, and the magic number, which is at 5, would be at 4. So let's explain the magic number, which is the magic number is 5, and you take any Giants win from here on out and any Dodgers loss, and you subtract that from the magic number. And when you get to 0, then it's clinch time. So it's at 5. They have 6 games left. So literally they go 5-1 and they can take care of business completely, and they don't have to worry about the Dodgers losing because the Dodgers have not lost very much. Or if the Dodgers do want to do us a little bit of a favor here and there, they could lose 1 or 2, and then it makes things a lot easier for the Giants. But I'm fully expecting the Giants to really have to go to like game 161, 162 to finish this thing off.
Yeah. And I don't want you to say that, but I was thinking about that today. I was like, doing the math in my head, and I thought, you could technically wrap this up on Thursday against Mad Bum. Is it going to happen? I mean, the Giants would have to win Tuesday and Wednesday, and the Dodgers would have to lose Tuesday and Wednesday. And then when was the last time that happened this season? It just hasn't. You have the 2 best teams in baseball just battling it out in the National League West. So it is going to go down to the final weekend. It could end Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. It could go to game 163. We've already talked about that. That's a very good possibility. The nice thing with that, if that does happen, is the Giants have the season series on the Dodgers. What was it? 10-9, right? I think it was. So they have the season series on them 10-9. So the game would be at AT&T, SBC, Oracle, whatever you want to call it. It's all those names, but it would be at the ballpark right behind you. And it would be at our home and home field advantage. Again, we've talked about this so many times. I love home field advantage in baseball because it really is the only thing that matters. I mean, the NFL, you get the crowd, the NHL, you get the crowd, NBA, you get the crowd, but baseball is a slower game. It's a little more chill. There's not a raucous crowd from beginning to end. So the true home field advantage in baseball that is better than any other sport is you get the last chance to score. There's no clock. You get the last chance to score. So it's beautiful. It's the most exciting home field advantage of any sport that I think myself. So a game 163 in San Francisco against your rival to win the division. Loser gets a 1-game wild card against the Cardinals. This whole week is just set up for tense. I'm almost out of bourbon too. I hit my closet in the last couple of weeks. I'm getting low. Might have to make a run to the store for this week.
So speaking of, what are you drinking?
Yeah. So I went with the Buffalo Trace today. I went back to bourbon. Last week, I think I had a beer. 2 weeks ago, we had our tequila drinks, but one gigantic ice cube and 2 ounces of, I guess that's called a double. I don't know. I just call it 2 ounces of Buffalo Trace. So that's what I'm having tonight. That kind of, there's no game tonight. It usually calms the nerves. If I'm sitting watching the game, I'll grab the bourbon.
We get a break.
Yeah, we get a little bit of a break tonight, a little bit of a chill tonight. Dodgers don't play tonight. Nobody really plays tonight who's in the hunt. So it's kind of a chill night. Get a little football on tonight, right? Got the Cowboys and Eagles. So, yeah. So what do you got there?
So I'm, really, really on this Zevia kick that you introduced me to. So we'd been doing the tequila mixing, and so this time I went straight up Jack Daniel's, the best mixing whiskey out there.
There you go.
Just because it's, you just if you have Jack Daniel's, you might as well mix it. That's kind of what it's there for.
Oh yeah.
And I got the Zevia cherry cola, so it's like a cherry Coke and Diet Cherry Coke and Dr. Pepper. I mean, and whiskey. So that's what I'm going with.
I got to try that sometime. We used to get the cherry cola Zevias, but it's been a long time. But that would be a good mix. I think that would be a good mix with bourbon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do you know what the rules are in the postseason for these extra inning games? It looks like we don't do the starting runner on second base in the postseason, correct?
They did not do it last year. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do it this year, but I think they do take that away. Yeah.
I wonder if it counts for game 163 if we need a game 163.
That is a regular season game. That is considered a regular season game and not a postseason game. That's why they call it game 163. So I would imagine they're going to stick with everything in the regular season. Yes.
Can you imagine?
Well, we'll be at home.
Well, I'm not even worried necessarily about us.
Oh yeah, there are so many others.
Some of these other teams, like the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays, are all separated by 2 games for 2 wild card spots, because it looks like Seattle has fallen a little bit further back. But you got two wild card spots and 3 teams, and if Seattle, maybe wins a couple, they may be in the mix because they're only 3 games back. But man, like this could get really crazy when it comes to that stuff. And then in the National League, it's just only Atlanta and Philly for the NL East, and St. Louis is just run away with that wild card.
I don't think I've ever seen a run like that in Major
16
League
games in a row.
16 games in a row. They now have a 5.5 game lead on Cincinnati. Cincinnati had that second wild card for a little while there. San Diego had that wild card, that second wild card. San Diego is now 9 games behind the Cardinals. They were eliminated over the weekend. They were mentally eliminated probably about a week ago.
Oh yeah.
But they were, mathematically eliminated over the weekend. But that's just amazing. I've never seen anything like that. So again, is that the team you want to play in a 1-game wild card right now? I mean, they still have 6 games to cool off, but I don't think they're cooling off. They are playing with some moxie, and so that would be a very tough 1 game. Whoever it is, Dodgers, Giants, they do get that game at home, which would be nice. St. Louis would have to go in there, but still, that would be insane. I definitely don't want to play them.
No way. I'll add the A's in there, by the way. I don't want to upset our A's buddy fan friends.
Do we have any? Like one?
Well,
maybe?
I know a few. I think they're, they don't really pound their chests as much anymore because they fully expect the team to leave.
Yeah,
which sucks.
Yeah.
But they're only 3 games behind Boston for that second one.
And they play actually. So I said nobody really plays tonight. Sorry, A's fans. A's play the Mariners starting tonight, and that's
a meaningful
game.
Meaningful game.
Yeah, very meaningful series altogether. So I'll probably have that one on, switch between that and the football game, going back and forth. Just because, again, if you're a sports fan, you just go back and forth. I was watching the Rams game yesterday, 125 start. Giants were already in the third or fourth inning, and you're texting me at the same
big win, man.
Yeah, so you text me, and I quickly switch over, and then during the commercials of the Rams games, I go over there. I don't know why I didn't think about this yesterday. I had
Picture in picture.
I have two laptops in the house. DirecTV
Yeah.
doesn't do picture in picture anymore for the 4K setup and all that.
Oh.
But I had two laptops in the house, and I used to. I don't know why I didn't do this, but I usually put it up on a speaker and put on, like, the Giants game or whatever else on there, and then watch the other game and have them both going at the same time. I don't know why I didn't think about it. There was too much going on yesterday.
So, like I said, good win for the Rams to beat the
Mhm.
defending Super Bowl champions, and
That was fun.
my Niners lost on Sunday night. I was actually just happy that they were in that game because it looked like it could have got away from them, and they could have got boat raced on national TV.
So can I tell you how much of a Niner fan I am not? So during that game, it was a good game, right? And it was a great game from what I saw afterwards.
football
and
game.
Good matchup too. So I usually watch that, but we're going to Disneyland in a week. So we're trying to rewatch and kind of catch up on Disney stuff that has to do with like Halloween and what's in the park right now. So instead of watching the Niners and Packers, I put my phone away because I usually tell the kids, hey, we're going to watch a movie or whatever. So put your phones away. So I have to do it too. You got to be an example. So I put the phone away, and we watched Coco last night.
Oh, not. Well, I mean, what did you want to cry? Is that why you guys watched that movie?
Yeah, it's such a great. I love that movie so much. First time I got to see it in 4K last night, so that was really fun. I mean, just the colors popped, everything was just beautiful. Love the story. It's so much going on in that movie. It was between that and Cars, and Cars is my favorite Pixar movie. So I kind of was leaning towards Cars, but I was like, you know what? They have so much Coco stuff in the park right now. We got to watch that because we're going to be there next week. So anyways, I did. That's how much of a Niner fan I'm not. I just watch Coco instead.
Before this turns into the Coco podcast, I will say one thing.
Yes.
Which is Coco has the best explanation I've ever seen of the Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead. And like the Day of the Dead never really made any sort of sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
A lot of cultures have something similar. Like, my Japanese side, we have something called the Obon, and they sort of do something similar where they have a festival for those who have passed. But the Dia de los Muertos in Coco is like the best explanation that I've ever seen for it. I was like, this makes complete sense. We just need to show people.
Yeah, and I didn't know exactly what it was until the first time we watched the movie, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And it's cool because, it does a good job of explaining it and kind of showing examples of it throughout the movie. So, yeah.
There's also a little lucha libre in Coco.
There is, yes.
All right, so let's talk about two players that I think are very important to this team. Actually, before that, why don't we do Player of the Week?
Okay. Yeah, let's hit that up.
Let's do Player of the Week.
Let's see here. Pull this guy up. All right. So every week I put up 3 players, sometimes a group of players, as I did this time. So coming in third place, Brandon Crawford got 0% of the votes. And Brandon Crawford got 0% of the votes by hitting 348 on the week with a 452 WOBA, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 5 runs scored. He had a tremendous week and his defense was awesome, but he came in third, didn't get any votes. That'll tell you how the other guys did here. Second place, I put up the whole bullpen because we talked about earlier in the podcast. The bullpen pitched as much as they possibly could all week long. The Giants went 5-1 this week. The bullpen got all of those decisions. The bullpen was 5-1. Like we talked about in Colorado, a lot of close games late. Giants, Rockies kind of hanging in, tie scores late in the game. And then the offense kind of busted out. And the Giants bullpen had a lot to do with that, keeping the Giants, close and keeping the Rockies from scoring late. And so the bullpen went 5-1. They pitched 28 1/3 innings in 6 games this week. They had 26 strikeouts, a save, and 3 holds on the week. So they came in second with 16.7% of the vote. And are you ready for the winner?
I am ready because I think this may be a record here.
I think so. And the winner is the captain, Brandon Belt. El Capitan, 83.3% of the vote, 458 average, 583 WOBA, 3 home runs, 5 ribs, 8 runs scored. I think his walk percentage was something like 18.8% on the week. And we know, I mean, he's a walker. I mean, that's what he does. He gets up to the plate. Brandon Belt will determine the strike zone for the umpire. If he doesn't swing, it's not a strike, right? I mean, that's kind of what we've come to see from him.
Maybe maybe the best eye since Barry, right? Since Barry Bonds.
I absolutely think so. And again, I and you, we are on the right side of the belt wars. Just so you know, there's a right side of the belt wars and there's a wrong side of the belt wars.
By the way, I was just trying to get through all the belt that we had on this podcast.
This is awesome. I love it. If you're just listening on the podcast, you're kind of missing out on the photoshopped images and the real images. Some of them are the captain's uniform. That's real. You're missing out on some of those just fantastic images of Brandon Belt. So make sure you get over to YouTube, hop on, check it out. But yeah, we are on the right side of the belt wars. If you're on the wrong side of the belt wars, it's time to switch over. And this is a good segue right into talking about Brandon Belt.
Well, you know, the thing about the belt wars, I see people holding the grudge, right? Because they dug their feet in that Belt wasn't as good as some people thought that he was. And I get it. Like, you know, some of the things that he did for the team was a little bit hard to see. Just if you're watching the games, you really had to dig sometimes to figure out, okay, well, you know, he went 1 for 5, but he walked and he scored, and, you know, he struck out 3 times and it was looking. And so, you know, when you think about old school baseball, like you and I were taught growing up, like, you know, don't ever leave the bat on your shoulder with 2 strikes.
Right.
And with that mentality, we probably chased a lot of strike 3s that were not, that were not strikes. Yeah. But I remember my cousin, he told me this a long time ago, and I never got it until Will Clark and Barry Bonds. And you know, before Bonds, Will Clark was the guy with the great eye, right? So Clark, Bonds, Belt, all have great eyes. And he told me he actually played some college baseball, JV college baseball, junior varsity college baseball at Mission, which is in the Bay Area. He told me when I was like, gosh, I would have been, I don't know, 15 or 16. He's like, you know, don't swing at anything that you don't think you can hit. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because when you get 2 strikes, you're supposed to protect and you got to put the ball in play and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, but then you'll get like really bad habits and you'll start swinging at bad pitches normally. And I was like, you know what? That makes sense, but I cannot justify to my coach that with a runner on second and I take a strike 3 that the umpire it's a bad call. I can't then justify to my coach, oh, coach, you know, that wasn't a strike. I can't start swinging at pitches that I can't hit because then I'll get bad habits. Like the coach is going to be like, no, you needed to put that ball in play to give us a chance. The other team could make an error, this and that. So yeah, at that point I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then when you saw Clark, then when you saw Bonds, and now when you see Belt, okay, maybe striking out sometimes and only making 1 out is not the worst thing to do, because you see a lot of guys will ground into double plays or they'll pop balls up, and it's just like, well, so then what's the difference between that and a strikeout? And so like just everyone grew up this certain way. So having him sometimes take a pitch that he doesn't think is a strike. Bonds did the same thing, by the way. Whenever Bonds would strike out, it was almost always on a called 3rd strike because he didn't agree with the pitch. So, you know, it's just that mentality. So I get it. I think I've told this story once, but people always kind of wonder, like, when did I become such a big Brandon Belt fan? And it was really out of the fan base. It was the fan base who was so down on him, and it made me dig my heels in more on him as a player. So here's what happened. So my friend, her name is Ashley Payne. Her mom is Kit. Her dad, they're both on our Facebook page, and she's got two sisters. One of them is for sure on our Facebook page. So it's like we have like the Payne family on our in our Facebook group.
I've seen them, yes.
And so Ashley was a big Belt fan, and I was a big Belt fan. So when he would do something great, like we would be retweeting each other on Twitter and stuff. And then when he'd do something bad and people were like frowning and being mean, like we would kind of joke with each other back and forth. And so it was us. It was just really like having fun with Ashley because we were both Brandon Belt fans as to why I kind of dug in. And then as you saw some of the Photoshops, I just started having fun with it. I was like, look, the guy's, the guy's not the second coming of Will Clark, but it doesn't mean he's not a really good player. And so then when you start having fun with it, and then when you kind of like, then I started just saying that he was handsome and stuff and having fun with that. And that's how it became a big thing. And, I've been proven correctly on this one more than once, but he still upsets my dad. Like my dad will still go, "Oh, he's so overrated sometimes." And I'm like, okay, I know.
Does he do that for you though? I mean, does he do that to get you just a little bit?
Maybe. Yeah, but I'm just like, yeah, I know you're an old baseball coach. When he strikes out looking with the runner on, it irritates you to no end.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, it does leave the next guy with a chance, because if you got a runner at first and third and you've got one out and you're chasing pitches and you're chasing a slider down in the zone, you're chasing an off-speed pitch down in the zone, you're going to ground it into a double play, because especially if you're Brandon Belt, you don't have wheels. I mean, you're going to hit the ball on the ground. It's going to be a double play, and that run's not going to score. So, yeah, I mean, leave it up to the next guy with runners at the corners and two outs to maybe get a knock. Because, I mean, the Giants have a good lineup this year. So that's the other thing, too. I think it's more forgivable this year than it has been in the past. But the Giants up and down the lineup have a good lineup, and it's more forgivable.
And think deeper into it. If you are, like you said, in that situation, the pitcher's trying to get you to hit into a double play. He's either trying to strike you out or he's trying to get you to hit into a double play. And so if you're swinging at the pitch that he throws to, get you to hit a hard ground ball to shortstop, then that's not a good at bat either. Like I'd rather take the strikeout.
Yeah, and the pitcher does his job and he beats you. This way, at least if you strike out on a pitch looking, the pitcher goes, "Oh, okay, great. I got an out, but I still have a runner at third. I still have to face another batter in the best lineup in baseball." Because really, I mean, when it comes down to it, over the last, I think it's like 2 months, the Giants have been the best lineup in baseball. And that's really, again, I can't even tell you how many times. It's so weird to say, because this team in the 2010s was built on pitching, defense, scrub free agent pickups that would hit, 5 home runs in the postseason. But
how dare you call Pat Burrell a scrub?
I was thinking of Cody Ross.
Oh, okay.
But yes, they were both scrubs. but they were our scrubs, right? They came to San Francisco.
They're heroes, man.
They became our heroes, and that was the whole thing.
Freddie Sanchez is a hero. Marco Scutaro is a hero.
So it's weird to have this team this year. Did your drink just get bigger?
If you saw me reaching like this, I went to get the extra Zevia.
I got a little bigger too. Yeah. I don't have anything to add to it, but bourbon. But yeah, so it is a weird thing this year to say like, hey, the Giants have the best offense in baseball. I mean, when you look at their offensive WAR, when you look at their the old WRC plus, the weighted runs created plus, they're at like 130 over the last month, and average is 100. So they're 30% over the average for creating runs. And again, it's a lot of it has to do with the home runs and the concept of going up there with the plan that this Giants coaching staff has instilled in these guys. So it's fantastic. But yeah, but again, I think that's more forgivable in a guy like Belt who strikes out looking. But again, he has a discernible eye, and when he strikes out looking, I kind of trust that. Okay, I mean, when he strikes out looking, I'd say probably 1 out of 10 times it's on a pitch he probably could have swung at.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's a fantastic player right there. That's somebody you want at the plate in a very pressure type of situation.
So this quote, we tweeted it out on yesterday, I think. So this is from Andrew Baggerly's piece in The Athletic. He said Belt's previous career high for home runs in a season was 18. Amazingly, that's how many he's hit in just 152 at-bats since returning from his knee injury on August 5th. His overall ratio of 1 home run per 11.1 at-bats is second in the majors, just behind Fernando Tatis Jr. and just ahead of Ohtani. Let's repeat that. Brandon Belt is hitting home runs with greater frequency than Shohei Ohtani. Like, how ridiculous is that statistic?
It's absolutely safe to call Brandon Belt Showtime Belt. I think it's legit. I think it's okay to do. I'm just looking. I pulled up Fangraphs. I love Fangraphs. I spend way too much time on Fangraphs sometimes. But since August 5th, when Brandon Belt came back, to this day, he is the number 10 hitter in WAR in the majors. So he's a top 10 hitter. Again, there's a right side of the Belt Wars. There's a wrong side of the Belt Wars. We are on the right side of the Belt Wars, where I think he should get another 2 years, maybe 3-year deal. He's going to be 34 next year, but he's hit 18 home runs since August 5th. One other player has hit 18 home runs since August 5th. Let's see if you can guess since August 5th. It's kind of a tough one. I'll give you 3 quick guesses.
Okay, so
18 home runs since August 5th.
So August 5th would have been almost about 7 weeks ago.
Yeah, we're looking at about 42 to 48 games for most of these guys.
Okay, so you're saying there is how many people who've hit
one other player who's hit 18
other than
home
Belt.
runs, other than Belt, and that's the most since August.
Okay,
5th.
I think I know who it is.
Okay.
The only reason I may know who this is because he's on my fantasy baseball team.
Oh, okay.
Is it Sal Perez?
No.
Oh, wow.
Sal
Okay.
Perez.
It's not Sal Perez.
Not Sal
Okay,
Perez.
let me think about this.
I don't even know. I don't even see Sal Perez on the list.
Well, he's got like 45 jacks or something like that.
He does, but he kind of cooled down.
Okay, so let's think about this. So
yeah, Sal Perez doesn't even have 12 since then.
It's not like someone like Swanson from the Braves or somebody like that.
It's somebody. It's somebody the A's should not.
Oh, Simeon.
Yes, it is.
There you go. That was dumb. I should have knew that. I should have knew that one.
Oh, you know what? I was wrong. My bad. Sal Perez has 19. Simeon and Belt have 18.
Okay. There we
go.
So
for some reason, for some reason, Sal Perez wasn't even on this first page of 30 top hitters with the highest WAR since August 5th. I have no idea why he wasn't. Maybe he didn't have enough ABs. I wonder if that's.
Just want to shout out Jeremy Feinstone, who's watching us live. He's a big fantasy baseball guy, by the way. If you need someone for next year, if someone falls out, Jeremy would be a guy. But he might be actually too good for our league. We may not want him in our league.
Well, can we have him join our National League only league?
Oh, yeah.
Because we need some help. That's a tough league. If you play in National League only or American League only leagues, those are really tough. I thought going into the season, this was my first time doing it with you, and I thought, I think we can get this. No, if somebody gets hurt, you are scraping the barrel for a guy to get like 10 at bats in a week. And yeah, it's tough. So Jeremy, if you'd like to join us next year, we would love to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So one other thing about Belt, which is a little scary, is yesterday he squares
Mhm.
around to bunt, takes the ball, and this was kind of like, because he can be a little bit of a klutz. He's a good athlete, but he could be a little
Yeah.
klutzy and awkward
He's a
sometimes.
big dude.
Yeah.
He's a what do they call him? The lanky, awkward,
Yeah.
just kind of like guy. I don't know. I'm 5'7", 5'8" on a good day. Like 155. So I don't know what it's like to be big, but I can
Especially
imagine
with
you.
those giant feet.
Yeah, I don't. I have
So
no idea.
he squares around to bunt. I wish I had a bat that I could show people. And so then the ball comes inside, and so he pulls back, but he doesn't have time to actually turn into the pitch so that the pitch hits his shoulder.
Mhm.
He's starting to he's doing this, and he's pulling back to turn. He almost catches the ball between the bat and his hand and his chest.
Yeah.
Like, that's how awkward this position is for him. And he looked like he got dinged on the thumb/hand. They wrapped it up, and he went out and he ran the bases, but then he immediately got taken out of the game for defense, which almost caused the Giants to lose because Wilmer Flores just decided to, we know Wilmer. Wilmer's gonna hit some jacks, but he's also gonna make some frustrating plays, to say the
Yeah.
least. But thankfully Brandon Crawford hit the home run, and they were all good. But yeah, so that's one thing to worry about, right? Because we only have a week left, and then the playoffs will start sometime. If they win the division, the playoffs will start sometime in the middle of the next week. So are you worried about Brandon Belt and his injury? We have very little information about it.
Well, I actually have some breaking news.
Oh, okay, good.
And it's not good.
Oh, Jesus.
No, it's being reported that he had an X-ray today and it revealed a fracture in his left thumb. So that was just reported 15 minutes ago. So we've been on for about a half hour or so. Pavlovich, Suzanne Slusser, Baggerly, they're all reporting a broken thumb. So how long is that going to keep him out? I mean, that's brutal.
Yes.
Very brutal.
That is unfortunate. Now, we are a glass half full
Yes.
podcast here.
Right.
The one thing that you can point to is that they have depth. You can put Lamont Wade at first.
Mm-hmm.
You can put Darren Ruff at first.
Right.
You can put, if you need to, Wilmer at first. All three guys hit for power.
Yeah.
It's not what Belt has been doing for us in this last these last few months. And it's gonna suck, especially because he's really solid defensively. But it's proven that, like, if I think there was a stat, I think it had to do with OPS per position. The Giants lead all of baseball at OPS at first base. And it's Belt, and then it's Wade, and then it's Ruff. So when he was out, they were fine because those guys produced. Not saying that they can replace him, but that is the one position on the field that they do have depth. So if Belt can play, if he can come back, and maybe he misses the first round, maybe he misses the second round if they get further enough, and maybe he can play after. They do have some depth that maybe lightens the bad news a little bit, but that sucks. And that was my worry when I saw it happen. It was kind of one of those things where you're watching the game and things are going almost too well, and you just go, gosh, something's gonna happen here. And that is unfortunate. It's a bummer for him too, because the guy was having such an amazing year. He was going to get to 30 jacks this year.
Yeah, and
now he can't get to 30 jacks.
Stuck at 29, and I mean, I hate to bring you that news, and here we are right in the middle of doing the podcast, and we're talking him up, and he's the captain. I mean, he's the team leader. If there's any time to rally, now is the time to rally. I have a lot of faith in Ruff. I have a lot of faith in Wade. I have a lot of faith in Kapler. I mean, more than anything, I have a great faith in Kapler that he's going to come up with lineups still day in and day out. The Giants didn't have Belt for 6 weeks earlier in the season. They also didn't have a hot Belt like this before his injury earlier in the season. So they played all season long without the hot Brandon Belt. What does that mean? That means somebody else has to get hot. Brandon Crawford's been on fire, it seems like, all season long. Lamont Wade Jr., is kind of cool, does his thing, and then becomes like Nitro Man in
What
the
do they
ninth
call him?
inning,
Late
right?
night, or they call him
Yeah,
something
late
like
night
that.
Lamont. I love that, man. Late night Lamont. That's a fantastic nickname. I might have to get a jersey that just says Late Night Lamont on it.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, but so that's what it's going to have to be. The Giants are going to have to continue the magic. More than anything, I think the Giants starting pitching needs to really, really step up in this last week. Then going into the playoffs too. I mean, this is a brutal injury at a brutal time of the season. The Giants are about to wrap up the West. They can go one of two ways with this. They can get down on themselves and say, "Oh man, this is a bummer. We're just going to play sad. But that's not what this team is. I don't expect that at all. I expect this team to just kind of launch it into the next gear like they've done all season long. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants now finished winning 6 in a row to close out the season because of this injury. And honestly, that's, I'm not saying they don't need Brandon Belt. Don't get me wrong on that. They need Brandon Belt. They love Brandon Belt. He is the heart and soul of this team, especially the past, month and a half. But this is the type of team that rallies. Every man is in this together. And so I can see them rallying and just kind of pushing through this and finishing super strong.
Hey man, if that happened, it'd be amazing. It'd be so awesome. So let's talk about Kevin Gausman. We've been talking about him the second half. I think I saw the stat that his ERA in the second half is like over 5. He's been mostly down. He's had a couple of good games.
Right.
This last game on Sunday was maybe the best one and most comparable to what he was in the first half of the season. I think he had 26 swing throughs, which is tops for the year. I think the only two pitchers in recent memory who had more were the aforementioned Madison Bumgarner, and then Lincecum had a game or two with like 29 swing throughs. So he had the splitter going. There was a couple that he hung too that Rockies batters missed. But overall, he had a really good start. You've been on the Logan Webb train as far as maybe the guy that you trust the most.
Yeah.
But I do think that we need Gausman to pitch the way that maybe he's not going to be quite first half Gausman. We need him to be much better in second half Gausman, because Logan Webb starting against the number 2 or number 3, maybe if Cueto is back, it takes pressure off of him so that he doesn't have to be the guy and that he can kind of settle into who he's been this year. So what did you think of Gausman? And do you have faith that Gausman will be more of that version from yesterday as we go forward?
Okay, so that's really a tough one, because we just haven't had enough of that Gausman in the second half. We've seen flashes of him. Yesterday, he did say something that made me kind of question a little bit if he is all the way back, but he said, my slider was working really, really good. He used it as his third pitch yesterday. He said, and that surprised me. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to hear that. but in the 2020s, you don't need to have 4 rock solid starting pitchers or 3 rock solid starting pitchers in the postseason. You need 2 rock solid starting pitchers in the postseason. That's the 2020s. It's not 2010 anymore, where you got to have a 4 or 5 man rotation. You have to have a good solid bullpen with guys that can go 3 or 4 innings, and the Giants have that. I said two to 3 innings, not 3 to 4. So if the Giants can get Webb and Gausman just lighting it up at the same time, heading into the rest of the season, these last 6 games, and then in the important games, 161, 162, 163 if we need it, and then the wild card game if we need it. Then they're set up for a really good postseason run. But if you're getting the Webb we saw the other night, which I don't think we will, again, like you said too, we're a glass half full podcast. We're realists when it comes to this type of thing. We look at numbers, we look at patterns, and Webb doesn't have that pattern of being the guy who's all of a sudden going to just lose his changeup. What happened in San Diego was a little bit different. It was just maybe a little bit of tiredness and whatnot. So, but when he's pitching at home and it's going to be a big game, I see a different Webb coming on. But yeah, I really think we're going to kind of start to see a little bit more of the Gausman that we're used to, especially at home. Again, when you're at home, and you just pitched kind of lights out in Colorado, and then you come home, that confidence boost. I mean, you're going to be shooting straight up, right? You pitch, you throw 11 strikeouts in 6 innings in Colorado and give up a run. I think you've got a little confidence boost when you're coming home in front of hopefully some raucous crowds. I know it's Arizona, it's San Diego, but it's closing out the season. And then going into a possible 163 and then a possible wild card. But we like to look at it as the week we wrap up the West, and then you get a whole 5 days off, and then you play on Friday in the first game of the NLDS. So, yeah, I mean, I see a little uptick for Gausman. I'm confident we're going to have that 1-2 punch of Webb and Gausman going into this last week.
All right. So before we get out of here, like I said, we're a very positive, glass half full podcast here.
Even though we're hurting right now, we're hurting, hurting with that belt news.
Any worries as we go through this last week? Like we said, Giants have 3 against the Diamondbacks, which I think they need to sweep all 3. Like, we cannot play around with these guys. Let's just take care of business at home. We're at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got the Padres for 3 to finish the season. Dodgers have the Padres for 3 before the Giants do, and then they have the Brewers, like we said. So if we are of the expectation that the Dodgers could win all 6, the Giants got to win 5 or else. So let the Diamondbacks are the gimme games. Let's win those, and let's worry about that last series against the Padres. So any worries about anything as we go into this last week? You mentioned the 1993 team. I think that's on everybody's mind, but
just for reference.
But yeah, so I mean, do you? Is there like one specific thing or 2 things that you're kind of slightly worried about? I know for sure for me, I would like to see Cueto be available.
Yep.
And we just haven't heard a lot about him. And I guess he's throwing on the side or whatever, but he's got a balky elbow. That's not good. I would rather him be pitching a playoff game than, say, Alex Wood. I would just prefer it to be Cueto because of his experience and because of, he just has so much moxie out there, and you just have confidence that, he's going to get the job done versus Wood, who's, kind of up and down. Though, he's had a really solid year too. I would almost prefer Cueto to DeSclafani, even though DeSclafani's come back and has thrown some really good games. So I guess that's one thing. And I guess the second thing has got to be defense. I know that they prioritize the offense, but you saw in the Colorado game where it's a line drive to La Stella. He may have kind of got it lost in the sun a little bit and drops it. And then there was the play that I mentioned with Wilmer there that could have caused them some damage, but got them. The Rockies tied the game, but it didn't cause the Giants to lose.
Right.
So I would say that third starter, I would like to have Cueto there, and then the second thing would just be the overall defense, because they prioritize the offense, and they go, okay, we'll just sort of deal with this defense sometimes.
Well, and that's fair. And I think we probably see. So Belt's going to go on the IL. I was just kind of looking at Twitter and trying to feel it out last time. I think he had this injury before and he was out for 8 weeks. But again, how bad is the injury? What can he do? What can't he do? So I think obviously the biggest concern is first base. I would imagine, so he'll go on the IL. I would imagine Dubon's probably going to come up because they're going to need to shuffle guys around. Dubon can play multiple positions. So I think that the concern is going to be first base, production at first base. We know what Ruff can do. We know what Wade can do. We know what Wilmer can do, but again, can you have that consistency through the playoffs, through everything else? Defense at first base is going to be a little less than what we have with Brandon Belt. But some other news on Cueto too. It's possible he goes Thursday against Mad Bum. They have thrown his name out there. It's probably going to be Gausman at this point, but there is a possibility Cueto is ready and kind of gets a tune-up game on Thursday, maybe like 3 or 4 innings, because he has pitched a rehab start, right? Just one in Sacramento, I believe. So this would be kind of like another rehab start. Just get him out there, get him 3 innings. But yeah, I think that is a big concern. You bring up a great point, because if you go in with just 2 starting pitchers, and I know I said this is the 2020, so having 2 starting pitchers isn't that, out of the ordinary, but having that third would make us much more comfortable. I think the concern from here until the end of the season is the Belt injury. It just happened yesterday. News just came out 15, 20 minutes ago that he's going to be on the IL, probably would definitely miss the rest of the season, probably miss a good chunk of the playoffs. So I think that's going to be it. The morale of the team is my number one concern. The captain of the team, the self-professed captain, although everybody on the team is taken into that and just absolutely loves it. All the fans as well. So the captain of the team has gone down. How does this team rally with 6 games left and a 2-game lead? I'm very, very confident in this team because they have been without him most of the season. Not most of the season, but 6 weeks in the season. And then before that, he was hitting 230, 220, even before the injury. And then he caught fire when he came back. And this team has just done what they've done. It has been called one of the deepest teams in baseball in terms of lineup from top to bottom. The 40-man roster, Zadie and Scott Harris have built this 40-man roster to be phenomenal. And so, yes, you're going to have some drop-off, but he's hot. Who's to say Brandon Belt didn't get cold in 2 or 3 days and was cold throughout the playoffs? We've seen the streakiness of him. But so I think the Giants can withstand that. But yeah, the morale of this team right now going into tomorrow night's game, I think that is my number one concern. But I see a very bright outlook, and I'm pretty confident. I'm confident.
You got to imagine that as bummed out as Belt is, he will probably use it to, create a little bit of humor, maybe alleviate some of the concerns. So, yeah, I think the team, they just need to clinch this, whatever it takes. If you got to win 6, you got to win 6, right?
Yeah.
Or actually, technically, you got to win 5, no matter what.
Well, if we're doing predictions, let's leave it with predictions, because we do that every week.
Okay.
Giants have 6 games. I think the Brandon Belt injury is going to turn into a gigantic morale booster, and the Giants are going to go 6-0
Wow.
the rest of the season. I really do. I believe that in my heart, because I'm not just being a fanboy. I'm not just saying, this team has done some really crazy things this season. And to finish 6-0 would kind of fit the craziness of this season. That's what I think.
Okay, if they win 6, that's 108 games that they would have
Yeah.
won for the season.
Yeah, I like it. I think this team can do it. And again, the injury, I think it just kind of says, hey, this is what we have to do. This is what we're going to do. We're gonna punch this out, and we're gonna finish this. So yeah.
So Wikipedia, I was looking up Wikipedia at what they have as far as most wins in a season. Let's see here. Most MLB wins in a season. Number
Oh, it's
1 is
Mariners, right?
so technically it is 116 in the 2001 Mariners. They didn't even go to the NLCS, right?
No, the ALCS. No, they got beat.
ALCS.
Yeah, they got beat by the White Sox, I think, in the first round, like handily. It wasn't even close. I remember watching that series thinking, wow, it's a curse to have the best record in baseball. But again, weird season. I think the Giants can kind of battle that weirdness.
So 1998 Yankees won 114. The 54 Indians won 111 and then went out and lost to the Giants in the World Series. The 27 Yankees won 110, but that was in a 154 game season as well as the 54 Indians. And then 1909 Pirates 110 in a 152 game season. 31 Athletics in a 152 game season. We're getting some
I remember
current
that team.
teams. We're getting some current teams. I'm skipping all these old teams.
1931 A's.
Oh, this was just
There you go.
this was just teams with a 700 winning percentage. Why
Oh,
is
okay.
this so hard to find?
Yeah. I tried to find all-time best road wins by the Giants, or a road record by the Giants today. I had a hell of a time trying to find that.
So this is a team that shows up on this list that I wouldn't have thought would have showed up on this list when it comes to winning percentage. The 1995 Indians in 144 games.
Yeah.
They won 100 games and then they lost in the World Series. That's crazy.
That's right. I just remembered 95 was shortened, right? They didn't start on time.
Yes.
144 games.
So basically this would put if they won 108 games,
which they will,
it would put them with the 18 Red Sox who won 108, the 86 Mets who won 108, the 75 Reds who won 108, and the 70 Orioles. All three of those teams went on to win the World Series. So if you get closer, you get to the 107s, you're talking about teams from the 30s, but the Astros in 19 won 107. They lost the World Series. The 19 Dodgers won 106. They didn't even make the World Series. The 98 Braves won 106 games. They lost the NLCS. The 2004 Cardinals won 105, lost the World Series. So doesn't mean just because you win all these games doesn't mean that you actually win the championship. So I don't.
You just have to be.
I don't want to
keep
looking at that list.
Yeah, you just have to be hot. That's what I mean. The 2014 Giants were hot. They won the wild card. They won the wild card game against the Pirates, and just got hot. They were just hot throughout the rest of that series. So or postseason.
All right. So the next time we do this are we going to try and shoot for this weekend? Because you're going to be out of town next week.
I would love to do a Saturday morning show. We like the Saturday morning shows, and
and we'll have a little bit more of an update on where the Giants are.
Yeah.
If they could possibly clinch the division by then. That would be nice.
That would be
give us something to
great.
talk about.
I have some Bay Area power going here. Got my Metallica
you go.
shirt. Got some Don't Stop Believin' Journey. I think we've got it all working for us.
So we'll plan to be back on this weekend on Saturday before you leave. Our normal Monday slot, we will miss that. And then we'll sort of figure out what the playoffs are like. I would like to do something even short after every playoff game. You're going to probably miss at least 2. And I may have to get some friends or whatever. But if we can do playoff stuff, it might be a little harder for the night games because it might be so late, and we may have to come back the next day or something. But it'd be nice to do it'd be nice to do short shows to talk about the games.
If I'm home, I will be up after the game. Will I be sober? I don't know. I mean, but we'll still do we can still do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. So that's going to be it from here. Thanks to Brad. I am a Double G. If you can, and you are listening to the audio version, and you can give us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, that would be tremendous. And also, if you are on social media, at Thompson to Clark, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and then if you watch through YouTube, just search for Thompson to Clark. Give us a subscribe. That'll give us, some more juice with the YouTube analytics there. We greatly appreciate that. So, for Brad, I'm Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.